Hello and welcome to my channel, Bobo Buns So Vintage Life. I'm Lisa, I'm a vintage inspired seamstress and dressmaking teacher, and I love to share what I'm making, my inspiration, my ideas, sewing tips, vintage haul, all of that with you on here to hopefully inspire your sewing or just give you a bit of pleasure with the watching. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you a visit we had last week to a quintessential English village, which has the most fabulous vintage fair, and we managed to get some finds, not at the fair, but a little shop we found. So I'll show you that, show you one of our lovely days out at the beach, because we are blessed here in Norfolk, which is in the UK. I live in the city, a lovely medieval city of Norwich, and it's a circular bump that sticks out on the side of the east coast of England, coast all the way around. We're so spoilt for the type, the choice of coastline we've got. So I'll just give you a dip into that, and I want to talk through what's hiding here behind me, this frock, which is a real grrr. So I'm rescuing it with a few techniques to say, put in a little bit of extra fabric, cartwheeling and putting in a bit extra for the zip. So I'm going to show you how to do that in case you have a similar grrr. So I shall see you in a moment, and then we will go through the frock. Before we get on with the sewing, I am going to share you some images of our lovely day out in Heydon, which is a beautiful village in Norfolk, and it's a village that you drive into, come to a dead end where the hall is, so you have to turn around and go back out down the country lanes to escape. Sometimes it feels a bit like the place that time forgot, but the reason we went there this time was to go to the beautiful tea rooms. It's just amazing. The food there was just glorious. We met a friend there, had a lovely day, booked around at the villages. There's always so many vintage cars driving in and out. The village was the scene for where they filmed the 60s film The Go-Between from the novel, and also Love on a Branch Line, also from another novel. They used the Earl Arms, which is the pub there, the village green, which I show you with the octagon in the middle. They filmed the cricket scenes there. So if you ever get to see either of those, Heydon is one of the locations for it, as are some other locations in Norfolk. What else have I got to tell you about Heydon? The Little Vintage Love Affair is there, which I've sold at many times, but I prefer being a visitor. The one at the beginning of August is just amazing. All round wooden First World War hut. It was built actually by people just after the First World War for soldiers, ex-soldiers to use. So you go up some steps, that's that with green round, and all the cellars are there, and people flock to it. It's a brilliant day out with vintage music being played, people dressed up to nines, the cars, the motorbikes. It's just a real buzz. So that's why I love Heydon. So I'm just going to show you some images of what we did there and what I found in the local florist, who also sells vintage stuff. Started off at the Heydon tea rooms, where we had a lovely lunch followed by a gorgeous cake. These are the beautiful roses my friend brought me, the gift. And look at that lovely car and the cottages. It's just beautiful. And here's the green with the church beyond. And the year of my birth, they won Best Kept Village. And then we've got the florists, which we went in, and that's where I bought a lot of my vintage treasures from, and some candles. Playing Which House Do I Want to Live In? Lovely time just wandering about in the sunshine. The next one's a shot from the Little Vintage Love Affair 1 year, which I have sold at. And this is Love on a Branch Line that I told you about. It's marvellous if you can watch that. And here's the treasure I found. Now, last Friday was an absolute scorcher here. Might not be for some countries, but reaching the high 30s, well, not the high 30s, the low 30s, goodness me. We were in the low 30s, but it's still blooming hot in our country. So we went to the beach for a few hours in the morning just to cool off in the sea and enjoy the weather. So we chose one of our favourite ones where we know we'll always see seals, and often seals will swim with us. And on the way we thought we'll go to the other one where the seals are, because we love the old beach shack there and we can get an ice cream afterwards. When we arrived, obviously with lockdown we haven't been there for so long, the beach shack had either fallen down or been knocked down. It was no longer there, so ice creams were off the menu, but we'd taken our lovely lunch with us, and we had our swim and we saw seals. So I'll just show you some lovely pictures from there so you can see how spoiled we are in this lovely county of ours. I'm wearing a recent finished make, the Rockabilly dress. You've already seen 2 other versions of this, and I've got 2 other made. One I can't share till after July because it's Fabric Godmother new release fabric that's coming out in July, so I'm really chuffed with that one. And this one is in a glorious Pink Roses cotton lawn, which I've talked about and shown you before. I think last week I talked about my inspiration for it. I ran out of fabric, so I just did a simple gathered skirt. I'm not sure I really like me in a gathered skirt, even though they feel really nice. And I had to put some, I don't know if I'm lift up, you might see my petticoat, put some broidery on glaze, some pink broidery on glaze, just to give it a bit of extra length. So I'm very, very chuffed with this. So that's what I'm wearing. This is the one we've got the problem with. It's something I found in my stash, cut out to last year's sizes, and I put some weight on. So it's a little bit tight. I tried letting out the back darts because I hadn't finished the bodice or done the skirt, so it was all a bit tight, but actually I still needed a smaller back dart, so I put those back in, and I've had to ease out as much as I can, but I just haven't got any extra fabric to do that. So what I've been doing is I had to cut the skirt from a very narrow fabric, and I didn't have enough of the skirt. So I will show you an overhead shot of this, but it looks almost like a godet, but a clunky godet in the front and the back pieces, where the skirt came off the fabric here and the fabric ended. There was this triangle missing. So I've cartwheeled in some fabric, so I'll show you how to do that in a bit if you have a similar problem to me. And don't see this, I have ripped this here, I can't believe it, I've got to mend that. But I'm adding in some strips of fabric here because the bodice joins at the seams, but there's no room to sew a zip in. So I'm sewing in what essentially is like sewing in a button placket, but I'm actually sewing it in to be the extra for the seam, for the zip. So it'll probably show a bit, and I didn't have enough of this fabric. I had some lovely vintage fabric that I've still got to use from Olive Road London, from lovely Sarah. I'm waiting to make the right dress, and I think I've decided on the right dress for that. But this is almost the same blue, it's just a very different fabric, but it's the best match possible. So I shall go on to showing you what I'm doing and how I do the cartwheeling technique, because you might find that will rescue your frocks in the future. Now, sometimes if you've got a skirt that's cut on the bias or a circle skirt and you've got trouble fitting it on, it hangs over the side, like I'm showing you with my pattern here, you're going to have to add some extra fabric in. I'm just showing you on a piece that I don't want to cut as a skirt, so I've just cut that bit of selvage off so I'd have a clean bit to make a seam. I've got a spare bit of fabric here, which you could just use the leftover scraps. As it's a busy print, I'm not worrying about pattern matching, but if it was a truer print, then I would make sure I was pattern matching correctly and putting that in. You see, I'm just making sure that it is covered by that corner of the skirt, and then I'm going to pin it in, and I would just sew a 1 centimetre seam to attach that there. I'll just check it still matches. Before I finish the seam, and then what's your ankle? You've got the more fabric for the skirt. As you can see, I've finally finished the dress. I am really pleased with it. It is a totally make do and mend frock. There's so many imperfect bits in it, but what the matter? I'll only be ever wearing it for odd days throughout the summer because we don't get enough hot weather here to warrant these kind of frocks. But I do really love it. The colour just pops, like the red accents, but of course it'll go with all sorts of colours. I've got a lovely vintage 50s brooch that was gifted by a dear friend. These buttons I cut off something else. I can't remember what, but it was something else I took apart. So I repurposed these vintage buttons onto here. And then I sewed buttonholes on the top. I didn't open them up. I've just sewn it all down. I just thought I can't be bothered with all the undoing. So they just pretend, really, for want of a better word. And as for the zip, yeah, that's a patchwork affair of extra bits of fabric from something else that's a similar colourway, but I got that in the best I can, and I used a zip that I'd taken out of something else, which was a bit of a fiddle faff because it's an invisible zip, and the teeth at the top had all flattened out, so it's really hard getting it sewn in the right position, but I've done that. And as we've looked at, cartwheeled some fabric at the bottom of the skirt because I didn't have enough to get the skirt, enough width in the fabric to get the skirt I wanted. So yeah, it's been quite a cobble about, and I think the other thing I forgot to mention was I've put on some weight since I cut this bodice out last year, so I had to do a bit of, that's why I've got the extra in the side, the zip. I had to make the back darts smaller. But we got there and I'm really chuffed with it. And the funny thing is, my love, he likes a lot of the clothes that I make. But the minute he saw this and then saw me, he said, I really like that one. So funny, isn't it? The ones that feel like they're a real mismatch, it looks a bit of a hot mess inside. This just isn't my idea of proper sewing. I'm really quite a fussy perfectionist, not so much on other people, but I'm really hard on myself. But I can live with it. I've got a really good serviceable dress from something that was just sitting there not doing anything. So I shall show you my lovely dress in a moment. Before I just show you one other thing, which is some other glorious fabric I've got. I've got a few projects to finish up and then some new sewing to do, and I really think I want to do something with this. It's red and pink, what's not to love? Red and pink are the colours that I choose for my YouTube, my website, my Patreon's going to be in those colours. So yeah, I love the colours together and I like them alone, to be honest. So I haven't decided what I'm doing with this, but yeah, like I say, from Rainbow Fabrics Kilburn, it's a cotton seersucker and it's just gorgeous. It's all washed and ready to become something. So I'll show you full length frock, bit of twirly whirly, and then we'll do our over and out. Joining me today, and I really hope you've enjoyed just the new little technique that I've shown you. Goodness knows where that word comes from. I remember cartwheeling as something I could never do. I could kind of get half of my legs up, roly-polies, forward rolls. They were about the height of my gymnastic abilities. Probably being tall, just didn't have it with me, but there you go. I haven't missed out on not being able to do that kind of a cartwheel, but I've saved my dress. So hopefully it'll be useful for you. And I just love spending time here with you. It's really enjoyable. So I hope you similarly enjoy spending time too. So if you do, then please press the subscribe button at the end of this video. Then you'll be notified when my videos come up. Like, comment, it's good fun chatting. I like to hear what you think. You're so supportive. Some lovely comments that I get from people, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for making this a really enjoyable place to be. So until next time, I shall say goodbye, keep well and happy sewing. Bye bye.